Your chest is not growing because you're not actually training your chest. You're training your front delts, your triceps, maybe even a little bit of lats, and barely getting any chest at all. And increasing the weight is just adding to the problem. By the end of this video, you're gonna know the 3 execution cues that I use personally to explode my chest, the biggest mistakes you're probably making in your chest training, the S-tier exercises that you can start doing tomorrow to improve your training, and lastly, the bench press take that might piss some people off when they watch it. All right, let's get into it. Before I show you anything, I want you to understand that more weight on the bar or on the apparatus is not gonna always equate to more chest growth. The goal isn't to move the most weight from A to B possible, it's actually to create the most tension and specifically mechanical tension in your chest while reducing injury risk and overall CNS tax. That's the entire game, and everything I'm about to show you serves that purpose. One of the single biggest changes that I made to my training was how I thought about pressing. Most people think pressing the weight away from you. This is absolutely killing your chest progress. When you push the weight away from you, you're actually rolling your shoulders forward and actually collapsing your chest, taking over with front delt and triceps, and actually removing your chest almost completely from the movement pattern. So here's the fix. So when you're thinking about pressing, instead of thinking shooting everything forward, what I want you to think about is as you press the hands out and away from you, I want you to almost cue that you're falling into the bench or the seat if it's a machine press, and you're actually falling backwards. So you want to think about this almost like an O-lineman blocks. So an O-lineman blocks like this, and you see how that puffs my chest up, as opposed to this. You see how my chest collapses? So it's that one simple fix of getting to the back of the rep and almost falling back, and you see how that keeps the shoulders down, scaps retracted. That one cue alone might improve your presses by, let's say, 50+%. Number 2 is elbow positioning. We do not want to let our elbows travel above our hands at any presses. As you see immediately, that's just gonna start to incorporate more front delt and triceps, and it's gonna put our shoulder capsule in a lot of strain, and that's where a lot of pec tears happen when you start to flare the elbow. It's gonna put a lot of tension on the pec minor as well. And so you really wanna make sure that we keep your elbows stacked underneath your hands. If you take a video and you see your elbows rising above the hands, so it looks like this, you wanna immediately see what happens when I drop those elbows underneath. That's gonna cue the shoulders down, chest nice and open, and as we press out, you can see that chest now puffs up. So remember, elbow positioning, when you take that video, always watch it and make sure it's stacked right underneath the hand. Next is range of motion. And this is something that most of you guys are sleeping on. So if we can keep that form with the shoulders down and back, and I think range of motion gets shit on a lot of times because people are like, oh, well, it's all gonna turn into your front delt. It's because you start flaring the elbows as you get back and stretch. But if you can start to improve your mobility and reach back here with this form, now we're increasing that moment arm. You're making the weight heavier for your chest specifically. And the amazing thing that happens is when we get back here with this form and we keep the shoulders down and back, you're gonna stretch from this pec minor all the way across to those sternal fibers in that stretch phase where the chest is most able to produce force. And that is where you're gonna get that insane amount of force and growth and stimulus. And the reason being is when you get back into stretch and we pause slightly and we think concerted drive to the chest and that cue of falling back into the bench, it's gonna be more therapeutic, less injury risk. So range of motion is 100% gonna help you grow chest. All right, so those are the 3 main cues, and I'm gonna show you how to incorporate them in like the most like mind-blowing S-tier cable setup that I actually came up with just recently, the last couple of months, that I've been doing almost every chest workout before. Let's get into a quick little myth buster number 1 of this video. Can you only train upper chest with an incline bias movement? The answer is no, absolutely not. You can train your whole chest with pretty much any angle. Yes, you can certainly bias different parts of your chest with different movement patterns, like a low to high cable fly is gonna be really, really good to attack that upper chest. So yes, you can bias, but don't get caught up with like, oh, I need to grow my upper chest. So you only ever do incline press or incline fly. So realistically, you can grow your entirety of your chest with almost any press or almost any fly movement. Now let's get into flies. This is like the movement pattern I see almost like across the board executed terribly like 90+% of the time. And oh my God, the one that kills me the most, and I still hear coaches teaching it, is hug the tree. If you fucking hug the tree, this is what's gonna happen. You are going to hug the tree and your chest is gonna collapse and you're gonna take over with your biceps and your front delt. What we need to do is that same cue that we use on our presses of falling back into the bench on our flies. So we need to keep the elbows forward. So the same thing, we cannot chicken wing these elbows. If you chicken wing the elbows, you're gonna push all that emphasis into front delt and bicep. What you need to do is drop. Watch what happens instantly here. Dropping elbows, it pushes the chest open. And as we reach back, we need to keep the shoulders compressed and reach here and not reach here, which is then inevitably gonna push us right into that hug the tree format. So the first cue I want you to do is first and foremost, like we talked about, falling into the bench. Number 2 is pushing those elbows forward. So instead of thinking chicken wing and reaching back like this, we need to push the elbows forward and pretend like a string is pulling our chest up to the ceiling. And the last one is not straightening the elbows in the back or keeping them bent in contraction. What we wanna do is bend them slightly here and stretch. And then as we push through, we wanna straighten them and come into about here. Getting them all the way together is not necessary because as you can see, this is about as far as I can go where I keep the shoulders down. Whereas to get to here, I really have to elevate shoulders. So we wanna just come into essentially about where the hands are about 4 to 6 inches apart, depending on how tall and big you are, but right about there. And then as we come back, we're gonna bend the elbows as we come back, keeping those elbows forward, reach, and then conscious drive through the chest, falling back into that pad. And that is going to create the perfect fly. You can apply that same cue to your dumbbell flies, your cable flies, your machine flies. All right, let's also talk about why the stretch principle works, especially for flies. So I got this candle right here. If I hold it like this, I could probably hold it all day, right? But now I put it out here and it basically becomes quote unquote heavier. It's called a moment arm. So the farther we get from that pivot point, which in this case would be like the shoulder joint, that weight's getting heavier. So if I do a fly like this, it's gonna feel lighter. Whereas if I take that same weight and I put it out here, now that moment arm is lengthening. And from a physics perspective, it becomes harder on the chest specifically. So what I do is try to maximize that range of motion so I can use less weight and create more tension for the chest. And you get that added benefit of that more incorporation of more of those fibers. So as you get into stretch, as you see in this video, you can see my entirety of my chest exploding from that pec minor all the way to the sternal fibers from incorporating this type of technique. All right, let's get into our exercise tier list now. So I know everyone wants to know, like, what exercises should I be doing? I think execution is gonna be more important than the exercise you're doing. But if we're gonna be talking about exercises, S tier for me is gonna be some sort of machine press where the handles are split. What I mean by that, instead of the bar going all the way across like a Smith machine, the handles are split so we can use either my ROM block or a foam roller to reach back behind ourselves and get that full range of motion with those form cues we talked about. And you get the added benefit of the stability that you don't get with dumbbells, which is why dumbbells is my next on the tier list. I think they're great because you get great range of motion, but there's an instability factor and also just the risk of getting them up into position and also the time and effort it takes to do so to get them into position might take away 1 or 2 reps from your set just from the fatigue built up from doing that. So I think that is also a terrific exercise. I program it myself, but it's not as good as a really good plate loaded or pin loaded machine press. Next on the list, we have a Smith machine, which has the benefit of the stability, but has the downside of limited range of motion. That bar is gonna come and hit your chest before you can get the full range of motion. There's nothing you can really do about that. You could add some like fat grips to get an extra ½ inch of range of motion, but it's not really as pronounced as you would with a machine press. And which leads us into what I would say C tier. I don't wanna be too mean and put it in F, but it's a bench press. And the reason for that, it has both of those downsides. It's unstable in the sense of doesn't have the stability of a machine and like Smith machine, but it also doesn't have the range of motion because the bar hits your chest. It's usually very ego driven. You want to put more weight on the bar week over week. You want to tell your friends what you bench press. And as we know, weight does not equal stimulus if you learn anything from this video. So for that reason, it's going in about C tier for me. Let's get into the fly movements. If you want to pick fly movements based on tier list, cable flies, for me, are S tier. You can set up the cable at any height. You can control that vector of force. I always like to set up a bench for the most part for my cable flies. So now you've got 2 points where you can control that angle. You've got the bench, you can change angle, you can change the cable height. It is so terrific. You can attack your chest from so many different ways. You have no limit on range of motion. So as long as you move that bench away far enough from the cable origin, you're not gonna have to worry about range of motion. As you guys will see later in this video, this is the creme de la creme of chest movements. I think even more so than heavy pressing, even a machine press, this is gonna be my favorite to grow your chest just because you get to put on an island and really isolate those fibers. And then next on the list, we got a dumbbell fly. I think they're great because essentially you have no limit on range of motion, especially if you use my ROM block or a half roller or a foam roller. You can really wrap those scaps around it, get full range of motion. These are more stretch biased because as you get towards the top, you're gonna stack that joint. You're not gonna have much stimulus, whereas the cable, you could argue you have more stimulus even in the contracted phase. So I would say this is gonna be a A- B+ tier exercise. I still use them all the time. I think they're terrific. Which gets us into the last one, which is gonna be a machine fly. I just think the only reason I'm putting these below those two is because there's so much inconsistency on a good machine fly versus a bad machine fly. A lot of times they're very limited range of motion. If you go to a commercial gym, you could also use the ROM block to add to that, but sometimes the arms don't go out far enough then. So there's a lot of limiters with machine flies, whereas cable flies and dumbbell flies across the world, like you have a dumbbell rack and a bench, you can have an amazing dumbbell fly setup, whereas a machine fly, it's a little bit more like you have a good fly or not a good fly. So for that reason, I'm putting them slightly below that, but still a terrific option if you do have a good machine fly. All right, now let's get into programming for the week. So I'm gonna say for chest, you can get away with as low as 8 hard sets. You could probably go up to about 16. I know you guys are probably surprised I'm not like 25 sets. Like at the end of the day, it's a law of diminishing returns. I would split these over 2 sessions at bare minimum. Do not do all your chest work. Don't try to destroy your chest in one day. Just because you're debilitatingly sore doesn't mean you grew more than if you did it over 2 sessions and you were just slightly sore, or maybe even not sore at all. We're not chasing soreness, we're chasing stimulus. In terms of flies versus presses, I would go at least 50% to 60% fly movements, whether it's a cable fly, upper chest cable fly, a machine fly, dumbbell fly. I feel like personally, you are gonna get so much if you master your fly form. It's more of a single joint movement. What I mean by that is compound presses, you can take over with front delts, with triceps, with even lats. Whereas with a fly, you're really putting your chest on the island, especially if you're doing them correctly. You can still load them really heavy. You can push them close to failure. But for those reasons, I think I'm gonna program more of that work towards flies. And as a bonus to you guys, I'm gonna put below this video kind of how I would structure a given week and what I utilize for my press days or for my pressing movements and chest focus movements throughout the week. And so that'll be a little Easter egg bonus for you guys to watch all up to this point, so thank you. All right, so let's talk reps. I am usually in that 7 to 10. You can go up to 12 reps. You can go as low as 5 if your form is perfect. So I use basically a 3 to 4 second eccentric, 1 second pause, 1 second concentric. But then the biggest surprise is no pause in contracted phase. So a lot of guys will do this squeeze in the middle of the rep. That's where your sarcomeres are crossed. That your chest has a very small ability to produce force in that most contracted position. So you're kind of wasting effort. You might have the sensation of feeling a burn, but really you're not gonna be getting much out of that most contracted position. All right, now let's get into the biggest mistakes that I see people making. And number one is chasing weight. Right, if you go from pressing, let's say 60-pound dumbbells and 2 weeks later you're pressing the 75s, it's not because you've added, let's say 15, 20% onto your chest in terms of contractile tissue that's now able to perform that weight. Like professional bodybuilders, something like myself, if I come back the next year with like 7 to 10 pounds of tissue, which is less than like, let's say right around 1 pound a month max, we're like, whoa, great job. Like the fact that you think you put on like 15 to 20% on your chest in like 2 weeks, especially if you're natural, even if you are enhanced, if you're the most enhanced guy on earth, you're full of shit. So the only thing that you've done to increase the weight is either shortening the range of motion, incorporating other muscle groups, or just form breakdown in general. So don't always be so attached to the logbook, because as we mentioned, if you're already not pressing very effectively to grow your chest and you're increasing weight, now you're probably just increasing injury risk and you're probably not creating any more meaningful stimulus for your chest. So do not get so overly tied and in love with your logbook, because it's not always gonna be one-to-one indicative with how much you're growing in that muscle group, especially if you have bodybuilding aspirations. All right, so if you guys wanna take away 3 major points from this video, number 1 is stop chasing weight and start chasing execution and proper form and really trying to stimulate your chest as opposed to just moving weight from A to B. Number 2 is going to be prioritizing range of motion, which is not only gonna benefit your hypertrophy, but also your overall mobility, because every single rep just turns into almost a partner stretch. And that's why so many people are surprised when I show up to the gym and I can go right into working sets. It's because I've banked up so much mobility from training like this that I don't need to spend 30 minutes with a band or on the turf. And I'm not saying if you have a specific injury or a PT has prescribed you some mobility work, like don't ignore that. But once you do this long enough, especially if you're healthy, you shouldn't have to do much mobility work because the reps are so controlled and they're essentially creating those stretch adaptations over time. And number 3, it's gonna be pick exercises that you can enjoy, you can come back and do repeatedly and do better and get more and more stimulus from over time. So if you guys are loving this video and videos like this, make sure you check out the hamstring one I just did a couple weeks ago, and also comment below with the cues you took away from this video that you found the most helpful so I can have that data. I read the comments, guys. I love that feedback. Also, make sure to get your torque gear, get your ROM block, which is gonna improve every single chest day. Get your Strandle, which also is gonna help take the pressure out of your wrists on almost any movement on any upper body day. So I love you guys, I appreciate you guys, and I will see you on the next video.